Tracy E. Gilchrist, and this is Equal Entertainment. The show went on for the 76th Annual Tony Awards without writers and delivered some amazing moments. Host Ariana DeBose and many of the presenters and winners expressed their support for the WGA strike. Kimberly Akimbo racked up the most, winning 5 Tonys, including Best Musical, Best Actress, and Best Original Score. Leopold Statt won 4 awards, including Best Play. Alex Newell of Shucked and J. Harrison G. of Some Like It Hot became the first 2 openly non-binary actors to win Tony Awards. Their wins mark a first for the Tonys. Blockbuster season is here, and it was another exciting opening weekend, this time for Transformers fans. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts raked in an estimated $60 million on opening weekend. It also earned another $110 million internationally. Spider-Man: Into the Spider-Verse brought in about $55 million in its second weekend. So far, that movie has made $225 million. And The Little Mermaid is 3 weeks into its release, and it brought in $22 million for a total of $414 million. The summer box office may continue to sizzle with Elementals, The Flash, and Indiana Jones expected later this month. One theme from Tim Burton's 1990 film Edward Scissorhands is about acceptance and embracing one's authentic self. The LA jukebox musical Scissorhands, based on the original film, rocked the city in 2018 and 2019, and the stars are reuniting at the Bourbon Room for a 2-night concert event. Now they say the story of Edward Scissorhands is more relevant than ever.
I think Scissorhands exists in a world of so many structures and breaks those structures. Breaks the binary, breaks the rules about sexuality, all of these things, because they just are them. They just exist. They don't know, they're created out of nothing. And there's a line in the show where someone is like, do you like boys? Do you asks them about it. And Scissorhands says, I'm just me.
People who are out who are not, from such accepting families. And I've had, a couple people say that it's really nice to see someone be that parent, and that they say, you're the mom, you're played the mom that I wish I always had. And that always just breaks my heart. And I always just give them a hug. And I feel so horrible that anyone has to grow up in a non-accepting environment, that it's very important to me that she is that sort of beacon for people who feel a little lost or like they don't have someone that wants to hug them.
Visit Bourbon Room Hollywood for tickets to Scissorhands, a concert reunion event. Season 2 of With Love on Prime Video is making waves right now. Stars Vincent Rodriguez III and Mark Indelicato say their on-screen relationship mirrors what many queer couples face.
Well, in season 2, where we leave off with Henry, is he's starting this new journey with this man in his life who is very special to him, and I think that's kind of scary. But I also think it's really fun to watch Henry, deal with himself as a person, and to step out of his own comfort zone in order to complement his boyfriend Jorge. And I think that's really beautiful, that sentiment of well, I love you, and I'm going to step out of my comfort zone to provide you with happiness, or to be a better version of myself, or to simply give you something that isn't really my thing, but because it's your thing and I love you, I'm going to do it anyway. And there's a lot of those moments for Henry, as well as those moments of dealing with family and dealing with what it takes to stay in a relationship, and how love really is the fuel for the discipline and the willpower it takes to be in a relationship where you're not the same people, you're not going to see eye to eye, you're going to argue, you're not going to agree. However, because you love each other, you come out all the more stronger after those interactions occur. And we definitely highlight that in our show with Henry and Jorge, as well as all the other relationships and love triangles and family dynamics that season 2 uncovers.
Mark, Jorge he has a moment in one of the earlier episodes where he's learning that he's got to let go of some of his things that he's held on to that maybe he feels has protected him throughout his life.
Trauma is a big word, but I think that it's applicable here. I think that, and as we learn later in the season, when he's talking about, very briefly though, about every man that I've ever been with has either been a homophobe or closeted or both, and I think that that is, unfortunately, a very relatable queer experience. And so I don't think, and of course, as an actor, when you take on a role, regardless of what the character has done, you have to find some way to relate to them. And I love Jorge, and I feel like I relate to him so much, but I think that the whole bit of his trauma was very difficult to revisit, because it's not only just his, and it's very vague, right? Like when he talks about his trauma, but I have it as a young queer man, right? And so I think that it's one of the universal experiences of being a queer person, and also living out loud.
Season 2 of With Love is streaming now on Prime Video. And it's time to say goodbye to Never Have I Ever after 4 seasons. Stars Ramona Young and Lee Rodriguez are reflecting on their own characters' journeys. They told me that wrapping up the series was a bit of a roller coaster. Talk a little bit about Eleanor's journey. I think there's an overarching theme for all the characters of they're all really coming into themselves as they move on to the next part of their lives. And would you talk a little bit about how that affects Eleanor and what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I think high school is a time where we all really have to search for ourselves. And I think Eleanor starts her journey being kind of broken and missing a few pieces, especially when it comes to her family life. And I think by the end of season 4, she figures out how to be herself and how to be fulfilled despite having those broken pieces.
Fabiola came out early on. It's kind of not been a big piece of her story at this point. She just gets to exist as she is.
As she should.
Yes. And but she's also come into her own in other ways. She's embraced herself as, robotics and being a bit of a nerd and kind of the beauty of that.
Like you were saying, she gets to just exist as a queer person, which all queer people should be able to do. Right. And so I feel like that's really great to see on screen. Yeah. And also just her really be in her element of, robotics and just being with her friends. And you get to really see who Fabiola is. And she grows, in her confidence and dating and, what she wants to do in life. And she takes risks, which can be scary and ruffled some feathers, but, everything worked itself out, so.
Yeah, and there's this, thank you. And there's this great scene where she stands up for other women as well in terms of the robotics team, which I thought was really great to see.
Yeah.
I just wonder what it was like having to say goodbye to Eleanor and to the cast and this incredible series that is so beloved.
It was incredibly emotional for me. And I'm sure for everyone else too, but it's just we came into filming our last season knowing that it was the last season, which is a knowledge that not a lot of actors on other shows get. So I think leading up to it, it was sometimes I would be really into the scene and be very work oriented, and then other moments I'd be I can't believe it. So it was an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, there was a lot of anticipation of how we'd feel. Be oh, we're gonna cry, or are we not? Are we all gonna rap together? We didn't know exactly how it would go, and so I think it was good that we got the heads up.
Yeah.
And we're able to kind of process it and just make the most of it.
The final season of Never Have I Ever is streaming now on Netflix. June is Pride Month, and Google is celebrating the late dancer, choreographer, and LGBTQ+ icon, Willie Ninja, the godfather of voguing. Ninja was born William Roscoe Leake in 1961 and rose to fame in the 1980s and 90s. He created the iconic House of Ninja social community and dance troupe, which is still active today. Ninja was known as the godfather of voguing in the Harlem ballroom scene. As a child, his mother took him to ballet performances at the legendary Apollo Theater. He would go on to invent his own style of dancing, inspiring and influencing some of the world's biggest artists. Ninja died in 2006 at age 45. The The Advocate Channel, Equal Pride, and Out Magazine are joining with iHeartMedia and Procter & Gamble for one of the biggest Pride celebrations online. The Advocate Channel is the official streaming partner. Can't Cancel Pride is going into its 4th year. This year's host is Jojo Siwa. You can watch Can't Cancel Pride on advocatechannel.com and stream it live on the Advocate Channel app. Can't Cancel Pride begins streaming June 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can watch the Advocate Channel live by downloading our app in the Apple or Google Play Store. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. For the Advocate Channel, I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and thank you for watching.